Hey there, friends, fellow survivors, hitchhikers, and now joy junkies. This is your friend mindlessbile here. Now, not only mindless, but a shameless self-promoter, as my shirt has finally arrived. And I still have my shirt coming back from China, which the man on the email assured me that since it is him doing it and not his wife's, and that his hands are much faster, that my shirt will be completed to exact specifications and will be here quickly. I have his insurance on his fast hands, so I'm going to leave you updated on that. But I'm here to share a few interesting things with you. I got some of my stuff I want to share with you on the terms of We Happy Few. But first, I'd like to talk about No Man's Sky, since technically this is first and foremost going to initially be a No Man's Sky channel. Now, I haven't been putting much out other than my trailer, which I hope everyone who watched enjoyed. I loved making it. It was a lot of fun. I wish I had more ideas for new ones to try to maybe scrap up some viewers, but seeing how the decent amount of views and attention I got off of that trailer, I really didn't drum up any more than one more subscriber. So, like I said, not really going for subscribers here, but it's nice to see progress when I do something, and when I don't see any new subscribers or any new kind of impressive views, it's kind of like, you know, like I said, it's not something I'm going for, but it's kind of a disappointment at the same time. But I'm used to being disappointed, so I can take it in stride, of course. But I haven't been doing no coverage on No Man's Sky. I've kind of done a media blackout for myself, and so that means, therefore, the channel is more or less going to have a media blackout because of a bunch of assholes. Yeah, I mean, the game's been leaked. People have gone to the center, and under 30 hours now have leaked the footage. Kind of ruined a lot of things for everyone, and I have yet to watch any spoilers and leaks, and I will not feature any of them on my channel. You know, the mystery of what that game was is what I loved so much about it, and now there's people out there destroying it just for cheap hits. And like I said before, not that I'm denying the fact that I'm using No Man's Sky and the hype like many other channels are for to try to raise my channel up. But I'm trying to do that to get viewers to watch this channel, and I'm doing it because I love the game. I legitimately am obsessed with the game, and I want to play the game. Sorry for the quick edit, the kitty came in. Now, it kind of pisses me off now that people are using this leaked footage and stealing now, not only that, but the fans themselves are making it okay and giving them the views by watching this leaked footage because they just can't wait for another goddamn week I mean, they've already played for the game, so why ruin it or ruin your hype for it? I mean, I've see things on Reddit for people canceling their pre-orders and everything for this game. Very upsetting, and I won't have nothing to do with it. So as far as I'm concerned, until the game comes out, there will be nothing more on No Man's Sky, unless they come up with some cool new idea for a trailer for fun or something, but there won't be no more news coverage. It's not necessary. We know anyone who's going to be playing the game has already started to play, you know, planning on playing it, so it's not worth going over. But I'd like to talk about We Happy Few. And as a note, I haven't put the video out yet, but I have crossed the bridge. Anyone who's been watching these, I have got the honey and I have crossed the bridge. We are in a smaller island than the one we are on, but it is also still part of Downersville. And I believe we're in the Garden District. It's the actual name. What the name of this little island is. This island actually might be the Garden District because I found evidence of some type of plague there. So maybe where I was at had its other name. I don't know. But we are out. It's just I did it last night, and I only got like 5 minutes out of footage out of like an hour and a half, and it wasn't worth putting on. I want to actually do something on the island cool before I release the video. But my YouTuber friend here, Diginix, made a comment on last night's video about the game's resemblance to BioShock. And being a fan of literature and film, especially in the sci-fi area, and especially in the dystopian future genre, and anyone who doesn't know what dystopian means, it is basically the opposite of a utopian society, where utopian society is perfect and everyone has what they need and they're happy and artistic and encouraged to love. A dystopian society, is actually the very exact opposite. People are usually on rations, the government's in control, love and breeding is not encouraged, usually a very nasty, oppressive, militaristic society, and where the people are more or less brainwashed and forced, a lot like North Korea. Now, I do agree with the similarities to BioShock, even though after researching on the game that the developer said that it wasn't really his intention to make it look like BioShock. No, and I'm not sure. I believe it's just because of the same engine. I believe BioShock is using the Unreal Engine as well. So I think that's basically what the problem is. If I'm wrong, sorry, internet fans and BioShock fans. Like I said, it's been a while since I played the game, and I'm really not into research. So I wanted to talk about some of its more classical inspirations, being a fan of classic sci-fi and film and literature. And some of the very first obvious and what they're very much going for was its very similarity to George Orwell's 1984. The very main character himself, Arthur, is very similar to the main character of the book, in which they work for the newspaper and that they are editing and rewriting the history to match up with the state's lies. You know, every time they decide to say that, you know, people want to go back and look in the future and see the wrong decisions they made, or if things were really nasty, they make them go back and erase those and change them to acceptable histories, so that nobody really... The concept is, if you kind of control the present and the future by controlling the past, you create, such as also in the newspaper, they created the language newspeak, where they were actually phasing out the words of negativity, you know, words of non-compliance and words of rebellion, basically anything that would give people even the thought in their head to even think about rebelling or fighting against the government. And once again, they do it under the guise that this is for the people's own good, that because of the situation of the world that they are in, that they have to do this, and they're usually brainwashed into thinking that they're actually doing a good thing. In 1984's case, they're usually fighting between two different fictitious countries, and it switches back and forth, and every time it would switch, the main character would have to go back and change the newspapers to make it look like they have always been at war with those people, and that there was never a switch. And this is all without going into the concept of Big Brother, which I'm sure everyone's heard of one way or the other, whether they know it's connected to 1984 or not. But that is first and foremost the most obvious source that they're pulling their kind of world from, and a very great book for anyone who wants to read. Next is Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. I don't know if I can get it on cue here. I'm not very good at that. There we go. In the sense that in this world, it's almost like a utopian environment, only hidden behind dystopia. Once again, very much like this, where the people actually believe. In 1984, everyone believed by fear. As the one guy said, the government representative said, he imagined the future to be an image of a boot stamping on the human face forever. I've always loved that quote, and it's just sheer nastiness, and it summed up more or less what they were doing. But in this one, everyone's on drugs and made to believe that they're happy, and they have very similar concepts to supervillains in modern movies, about how man himself doesn't actually want choice. He's much rather have somebody tell him what to do. He doesn't want leaders. He doesn't want the responsibility of the world around him. He just wants to live his narrow, self-centered life, and this is basically what this society encourages. Everyone's on drugs, everyone does their frivolous things, but in reality they're all being, you know, oppressed and punished, and none of them are actually smart enough to do it, and the main character obviously starts to kind of see things for how they really are. Now, also back to the literature thing, though there's not very many similarities, I'll pull up Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, another one where the government society was destroying literature for any type of comparison, or any type of, once again, a comparison to be able to look back to the way things were as compared to how things and how they are being treated now. They're trying to take away that thought, you know, the basic concept that if you never knew good, how can you know what good is, or if it ever existed? Now, we move on to some movies, and obviously there's film versions for most of these. I don't actually have the film copies of most of these because I just usually read the books, though they are good, and I just have not gotten around to buying them. One movie in particular is Brazil. It's kind of a comedic one, which also, you know, this game is kind of comedic in its way. But we also have Back to the Drugs, George Lucas's, one of his first films long before Star Wars, THYX. What is it, 1138? I always forget that. THX 1138, sorry. Thix, I believe as he's called. Lives in an underground society after a nuclear devastation or some type of apocalypse. Everyone lives underground and is on drugs. Love is not encouraged. Breeding is not encouraged. And once again, we have a character who I believe tricked by a woman. It's been a while since I watched it. But he is taken off of his medication and starts to fall in love with a woman, is sent to a very kind of neat prison where everything is kind of like a snow whiteout. They're in a prison of indeterminate shape, and everything is white, and they all centralize around the couches and the structures that their minds are familiar and comfortable with in the middle of this prison. And they're all actually afraid to leave this prison because they cannot actually see, much similar to a blizzard whiteout, any of the dimensions in their prison, and they're afraid once they lose their sanctuary, they'll never be able to come back. Very neat movie. Robert Duvall as the main character, THX. And Donald Pleasance, anyone knows him from the first two Halloween movies, is another one of the many unfortunate members, and tries to help him kind of break out and make it back to the surface. One of the classics and most obvious is of dystopian futures Anthony Burgess's Clockwork Orange. I don't have the book. It was one of my books that was destroyed in the great air conditioner accident of like the early 2000s, when all of my books were destroyed except for the Hitchhiker's Guide, and that's just because it was a collection of all of them, and it's hard to destroy a 800-page collection of books by moisture. There's a lot of pages to soak it up, and I've managed to survive that. But my Clockwork Orange with the complete NADSAT dictionary was ruined, and I've yet to replace it. And also as well, my Anthony Burgess book, The Wanting Seed, which also is a world that does not encourage breeding so far as to actually encourage people to have abortions and bring the unborn fetuses to be recycled, or any children that are actually born to be brought and killed, to be brought down to fertilizer, to grow fields in order to grow food for the the population, when the rest of the world's food sources has pretty much died off. And also as well as great wall propaganda posters such as Sexless Figures, Breaking Eggs. And once again, we have a character who falls in love and wants to have a child and breaks off into the countryside. And it's kind of funny because it goes from a dystopian science fiction novel to kind of a rural pioneer novel. As this guy goes off and falls in love and lives out in the woods and the cabins and sees how we used to live before society came along and really fucked everything up. But two great things by Anthony Burgess, or Burgess. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that. One of the thing about being a fan of weird stuff is I never actually hear how most of these people's names are pronounced. And one last thing before we end the video. I'm not exactly sure, but I hear a lot of trendy names about the food rations they're eating over in Wellington Wells, and it kind of reminds me of Soylent Green. And as we all know, Soylent Green is made out of people. I believe at one point we'll find out that people are eating people in Wellington Wells for lack of food, more than just rat piñatas. But that's all I had to share with you. I'd like to eventually share some science fiction stuff with you once No Man's Sky comes out and I kind of see the angles of where they're coming from and what things they were inspired for. But that's all I got for you today, and I'm going to pump out another video for We Happy Few here real soon. Once again, this is Mindless Bile. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, hit the like button or subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again.